Hello, everyone. I am Leslie Appleton Young. I have the pleasure of hosting the Coffee and Conversations program of Women Up for the California Association of Realtors. I was with CAR for almost my entire career for 37 years. And now for the last several, I've been able to stay connected. And I will, I'm sure, till the bitter end, which is what we're here to talk about a little bit today. So thank you for being here. I hope you all paid attention to the video. I want to give a shout out to this incredible retreat that's coming up in June. It's 2 days. It's June 13th and 14th in Oceanside. So what could be better than that, at a new hotel right on the beach. And as they do every year, Sarah and Debra mix it up and make it fresh. And this year there's going to be a real focus on collaboration, self-care, exploration, reflection. I think you're going to get a lot of soul food from this event. So let me just kind of go through some of the things that there'll be: poolside yoga and meditation, collaborating at tables to talk about your business and get some insights into where to go from there. There will be leaders in our industry from all over the country who will be there looking to connect and hear what's going on with you. They are also bringing back, for people like me, the Introverts Lounge space. So if you are someone that everything thinks is an extrovert, but you're not, I will see you there. There'll be lots of networking. There'll be lots to talk about. There'll be lots of dancing. The Mondavi sisters will be back with an incredible wine tasting experience. So it's kind of a cementing of our community in all the ways that make Woman Up so special. So I really hope you can make an effort to get down to Carlsbad, and I look forward to seeing you there. So let's get started with the topic of the hour, which is This Chair Rocks. We're doing a little bit of a book review, but I think what's more important is really the topic about ageism and how it has impacted how you think about yourself, how you think about yourself in the world, in your community, and what's working and what isn't working. And I'll just start with just a few highlights from her, a quote in her website, which I really think nails it. And she said, "Ageism is not a problem to be solved. And like a lot of issues we deal with, there is a tremendous amount of misinformation, misunderstanding, lack of looking at the data to really see what's going on." And it really is. Aging is about how we move through life. As soon as we're born, we start aging. And unfortunately, at some point or points in the life spectrum, all of a sudden it becomes kind of a negative, right? We gotta get rid of that wrinkle. We gotta get rid of, you can't do that. You're too old for that. It's not age appropriate. And I was just writing down all of the new chapters that are involved in a life, right? So we enter school, right? Maybe college, maybe not, but we all enter and are students for some time. Then we enter the workforce, or we enter maybe a marriage, maybe whatever kind of relationship that looks like. Some of us enter parenthood. And that's, like all of a sudden this whole subculture opens up, right? You're just like, oh my gosh. And then you get to enter grandparenthood. And this is just, the top of the iceberg here, just talking about the changes that we all go through. And, one of the things I've always said to my kids is, no one gets out of here alive. Like, this idea of having an endpoint that's uncertain and unknown can really be a positive, right? Just understanding what the trip is and how to really make the most of it. So anyway, I have three wonderful panelists who are going to be doing most of the talking, and their full bios are going to be on the Women Up website. So this is just very quick off the top. Cathy Scharetg has been a dear friend for many years and has been on this program before for a number of different topics. And as I mentioned, she's the one that talks about how to be a better asker. She has a consulting firm called, and she's the Curiosity Coach. She did a wonderful TED Talk. It's probably 2 years ago now that I highly recommend. She is with Intero Real Estate. She has had a long and varied, successful career in the real estate business. So Cathy, I always tell her, you're one of these, you are really the only person that when I talk to you, I want to have a tape recorder, because it seems like everything you say is like, oh my God, what an insight. So Cathy, thank you. And Amy, oh my gosh, Amy is the one that connected the dots on tech before even any of us really knew kind of what it meant, and prop tech, what's that, and how's it going to change my business? I like houses, I like people, I don't need it. And Amy was the one who, in her various roles in the real estate business, including a long tenure at Better Homes and Gardens, and then starting Curated Learning, she is an educator. She is the best in the business. And I really look forward to seeing her insights as she has built her career and transitioned through. And then finally, Debra Durbin, who I don't know as well. We actually talked at Women Up last year. And as I was thinking about this program, Debra Durbin reminded me that she had gotten an email from you, Debra, because I had mentioned this topic, saying, oh boy, we've got to talk about this. So Debra, again, is an amazing realtor, active in the real estate space. She's with Lion, but she's also worked in some very big name technology companies. She brings together, technology, interior design, market knowledge, just incredibly skilled negotiator, which is, I think, one of the main reasons people will always need a realtor. And I've really been enjoying getting to know you, Debra. So thank you. Thank you for being here. So let me get started with the first question. And it's really a thought question also for you who are listening in. Okay, I'll get a quote from Cathy, and she was on last year. She's one of the wave makers for the retreat. And she said, real estate is an industry of limitless possibilities. And, it's true. There is not a glass ceiling in real estate. In fact, women owned it way before men did, because we were the ones that cared about housing. So I want to start, and she said that we're only diminished by our own belief system. So even though the book that we read had all kinds of topics within ageism, I really want to start with, how are we limiting ourselves? How is our belief system that we've had a lot of input over the years on, younger is better and skinnier is better and this is better and that is better. So what I want you all to do is take the age you are now and subtract and then compare it to the age that you feel, right? How old do you feel versus how old does the calendar say that you are? And if there is a gap, and I would guess there probably is a gap, I want to talk about why there is one. There was a research study done out of Duke University, worldwide, global study, and it found, believe it or not, that once you hit 40 and above, the age that you feel is 20% less than the age that you are. So I want to ask our panelists, I want to start with Amy, and I want to ask, as you've done that in your head, is there a gap, and why do you think that gap exists for you? Amy.
It's Leslie. Hi, everybody. I used to have that feeling, and the 20% rings correct. When I tell people how old I am, they go, oh my God, I thought you were literally 20% younger than I am. So that's always been in my favor, which is kind of cool. I was always afraid to talk about my age. I will share with you, about 5 years ago, my sister, who's 6 years older than me, called me and she goes, Amy, you can't ever get older than 58. I go, why? She goes, because I just turned 60 and my clients are leaving me. She's the CPA. So now I'm telling them that I'm 59 and sticking at it. So it was a joke,
Right.
but was really a joke. So just to kind of wrap up, I've changed my attitude now because more and more of my clients are now more proud of them where they are in their life. And I have clients that are retiring at 50, at 55. I have clients that are retiring at 35, 40. I know that's crazy. So the whole mindset of retiring with the next generation is changing everything. So I think if you're confident with what you want to do with the next part of your life, you can be proud about it. I'm still not saying my age though, so I still have some work. But that's
It's fine, but I love the point you made, and she makes this in the book, that these ideas that we have about what's age appropriate and so on and so forth are really cultural, and culture can change, and we've seen that in all of our lives, how attitudes about, I was telling a friend about the Emily Dickinson. There's a wonderful TV show called Dickinson. I was telling her about it, and it was so exciting. And I said, she never got anything published. And it was like, well, why? And I said, because her father wouldn't let her. It's 1840, you cannot publish. And I think we forget, it's 1960, you can't have a credit card. You can't get a loan to go to college because you're just going to get married. So thank you for bringing that up. Debra, what about you and the gap?
Well, it's a little different for me. I'm very proud of my 68 years. I'll be 69 in November. And I'm proud of it because this has probably been the best part of my life ever. I remarried at 59 and wore the damn white dress again. It was so big you could have stuck 3 or 4 people in there too. But I will tell you that the person that I went to the honor roll bus trip with was my best, my maid of honor. She and I have been friends since I was 10. And the other one was my college roommate. And my whole life started all over again. And I've always had so much responsibility. I'm the matriarch of my family. My family defers everything to me. And I married 2 older men. And so I've always sort of felt like I was hanging out with the big kids, and I didn't quite feel that gap that you're talking about. And I worked in businesses where I was the only woman at the table in technology. I managed men. And so I have a really different perspective. And I think you had to be more mature. But then I hit that wall that you hit in technology. At 55, most of us were let go. We were just suddenly let go. And yeah, I will say that the women were much more resilient about that. The men were actually in tears because they were so overstated in terms of what they thought their lives were going to be. Their wives were leaving them. It was ugly. And I just think women are just much more adaptable. And I see that even now. And, all I want to do now is, I realize we didn't really break the glass ceiling. We just kind of Windexed it. So in terms of the next generation, my entire goal in life, and this is separate from real estate, is to bring young women executives up and teach them how to do this right, quietly and behind the scenes, so that they have a safe harbor to talk to somebody that's super skilled about this stuff. So I'm loving my time now.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's great. Cathy.
Well, first of all, thank you. And it's a pleasure to meet you personally, Amy and Debra. I read your bios and really breathed it in. And I love the book, Leslie. Love the book. I mean, you talk about my journey into this level of thought had to do, first of all, with sexism. I was looking at the power of the feminine aspect of, what is the feminine aspect of power, and was just rocketed into a 4th dimension after I read The Heroine's Journey, because noticing how women are always trying to be on the freaking hero's journey, it kind of eclipses the feminine aspect of what we bring to the table. So in my early years, right, I'm a baby boomer, I'm 65. in my early years, I would think I had to be like a man in drag, right? Like cute, but not sexy, attractive, but not overwhelming, all sensible shoes, tennis shoes in the.
I remember the GRI,
the
perky
big,
bow, the perky bow.
Perky bow, big shoulder pads, all that. So it was like, be funny, but don't get intimate. So the rules of the game. And so taking that and then looking at ageism. And I really thought 65 was, and I wrote it to you in this, when it came to my mind, I was surprised that I'd be old and used up at 65. I did not think this was me on me. Now I had societal pressures and I had familial pressures that told me what to do while I was still in childbearing age, and sent out to pasture. The thought was that at 65 you'd be in some grazing land somewhere, right? And that's like, so now I realize, and I'd be old and used up, a rusted out car. And so now, and that new and flashy, those days were behind me. Well, that's, it's like I have to remember this is a G thing. It's like I am just so full of rambunction now, because it's a matter of this new life surge that's coming in by clearing out all the old data, right? You clear out old data, that's real energy space. I mean, if we were doing energy work around all the junk that we were taught to believe as girls, there would be like a rocket ship fuel, right? So the idea that I thought 20 years ago at 45, when I would be 65, my time would be up. And there was this unnecessary anxiety that I put on myself to perform at a high level before I started functioning in a diminished capacity. And that's what I loved about the book as well as the TED Talk. It's like, boy, was that an outdated idea. So that's right. My 2 cents.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of summing up all your comments intersected a little bit in the sense that aging has been looked at as loss. One, tick off all the things that you aren't anymore, instead of opportunity. And just to hear, Debra, you say you've never been this happy. There's just amazing things that happen in this next chapter that no one's told us about. It's like surprise. In fact, there was this great quote from Jane Fonda. One of the things I've learned about getting to old age is that once you are inside it, as opposed to looking at it from the outside, it's not nearly as scary. And I will say, I don't know any numbers and I don't want to get into defining things, but, to be at a point where it's the best time of our life, when we were younger, we thought out to pasture, let's get rid of that. So, okay, let's go on to the next question. I'm going to start with Debra this time. Talk about some of your aha moments from reading this book. And I love that you told me when we talked earlier that there were things that she said that you did not agree with. And I said, great. This is not a one size fits all, but it is just raising the awareness, which is where it starts. So Debra, talk to us about what you found in the book.
Well, I want to talk about my filter that I read this through. So I live in a 55 plus Sun City community in the Sacramento area. I sell 55 plus and luxury. And I went kicking and screaming because my husband's older than me and I didn't think I was ready to go. And the first generation is aging out, meaning that they're 85 years old. And so a lot of them are passing away. And so a younger group is coming in. So this is a really interesting thing to be able to see people that are in their late 50s come in and 85-year-olds and older age out. So you see everything here. So my filter is different than most people's. Yeah. I have 85-year-olds on both sides of me. One is a major pain in the ass, and the other is like my best friend now. And this morning I went over to give her the garage door opener so that they could deliver something. And she opened the door and she said, "Oh my God, you scared me." And I was dressed to go on an appointment. And I said, "You scared me." And she goes, "I don't even have a bra on." And I said, "Neither do I." And she said, "Oh, that's not true. You're all dressed up." And I said, "Well, why don't you come and be my assistant today?" She goes, "Stop it, close the door." And this is the way it goes. and she has a boyfriend. And a lot of the women have boyfriends. They're not married to them. They all have their own houses. And then there's, you know, my 18-hole sister who admitted to me quietly one day that she'd been married 4 times. So I said, where does one meet one's 3rd and 4th husband? And she said, prime rib night. So, you know, it's a different perspective. I just love living here because I get to see all the different gradations of what aging looks like. Some women stay in their house and they die. And there's other women that are at prime rib night and drinks. And then there's us on the 18-holers, and we're really feisty. And then there's the issue about sex, right? And I want to talk about sex because I went to my doctor and I said, okay, so like I'm 68, I still want to do it. I'm basically newly married. I'm what's called a silver divorce. And we're having some problems with this. And she said, oh, there's this cool thing. It is a injectable estrogen that has testosterone in it. So it does 2 great things. It actually, plumps up your lower half and gives you some more sex drive. It is the coolest thing. So, you know, I expected a line at the pharmacy for this. And I went up and I bought the box, and 1 month's supply is $100. And I said to my husband, I think you could get a hooker for less than what this is going to cost. And he said, yeah, probably, but I prefer just to, to put the $100 out.
Now that Viagra is a lot cheaper. So
well,
there you go.
that is the point I wanted to make, is that he can go buy a product and it costs nothing and it's covered by his insurance. Our testosterone product, which makes us feel better, is not. That's why it's $100. And I just want to point that out, that these are other things that you'll find when you get older and you need a little bit of assistance. They exist. No one talks about it. It's out there. And we're going to need to fight this battle the same way we did the dry cleaner and the cost of clothes and all that stuff. I just wanted to bring that forward. So I live a really cool life in a 55+ community.
You know, I'm really glad you brought that up. I just had my annual physical this morning, and it's my second. We've been in Atlanta now for 2 years, so it's my second time or third time with this doctor. And I remember our first visit, I asked her about hormone replacement and bioidentical hormones and those kinds of things, and she just didn't even have anyone to refer me to. They don't talk about it. They're not educated about it. It's nothing that that's on the table, and it's really terrible, because once you are open to that, it's like a whole new world. It's just, you may need like another husband after that.
Well, I will tell you, there's a wonderful book on menopause. It's written by a woman that runs a clinic in downtown Chicago with Northwestern. And, if somebody wants that information, I'd be happy to give them, because I learned everything from that book, and there's just not enough of that out there.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. Cathy, what about you in terms of your aha moments with the book?
Well, and again, reading this book, eyes wide open, coming out of my feminine power surge, is the idea that this, and I highlighted and put little pink stickets all over it, but that an African-American woman who attended medical school in the University of Chicago at the age of 85, or in Detroit, she was the first female pediatrician. They asked her, which was worse for you, racism, sexism, or ageism? And she said, without hesitation, ageism. That with all of everything that she went through, that coming into that age or coming in and being a woman of a certain age, that somehow decisions are made for you. Nobody's making decisions for me. I mean, I got divorced at 55, and I remember a woman said to me, she goes, well, do you have a boyfriend? It's like, no, I don't. Well, then how could you leave one without another? It's like, well, wouldn't that be the point? I mean, it was very interesting how there's that freedom, but yet people want to sit there and say, what are you doing out here? And so the idea that ageism is real. And that's when I read that's when I started saying, I am 65. Yeah, look at me. And yeah, I wear skinny jeans and high heels when I damn well please, but mostly I wear sneakers because they're more comfortable. So, I mean, it's my call. This is my call. So that was the first one. The second one, seeing what I was doing to myself. So again, like Debra, to Debra's point, there's the outside social, what's expected of you behavior that we shirk. But then it's like, what have I owned that I no longer want to own now? What have I been telling myself? That it's like, I would run a marathon to prove to you that I'm still young at heart. Well, why don't you just go for a walk around the lake and enjoy your day? Well, because I'm still trying to prove to the world that I'm something that I used to be. It's like, and in this book, it brought my attention to, yes, so stop doing that and be more you on purpose today, right? So it's like, it's not only what the world tells me, what am I pitting myself up against on a regular basis? And the third thing, I had to write it down, that I'm inspired by the freedom that I feel when I realize that I'm not beholden to anybody, you know? And case in point, I was talking to my dad, who we just lost my mother. And I'm having some emotional things, right? Because I'm a little girl who didn't get loved properly when I was 10. So that's all kind of bubbling up. And he's selling the family house, and I'm sad, but I don't, you know, I told him, I say, hey, Dad, I don't want you to stop. I mean, I like selling houses. I'm selling it for you. But I'm just sad. It's Mom. And I've left when I was 18. And then I said to him something that surprised me and him. I said, I'm a 65-year-old woman. I think I can handle it, Dad. And you know what? It's like that empowered me to think, you know what? I think I can handle whatever this is, because I've been through it in different chapters. So that's why I've told 2 or 3 women to get this book, because it's not just coming into your feminine grace and power, but it's owning the lineage of where you are right now, of your own story.
Right.
So.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, Amy, tell us about your reaction to the book.
So we try to talk, Leslie and I, at least once a month, just to stay connected. And we both found out we were reading this book at the same time. So it was like, what? We both had found it so interesting. For me, a little bit of a different story. First of all, thank you, Debra. I loved your story. And Cathy, I can tell you how to help with that mother thing, because I also wasn't loved when I was 10. So if you want to connect, I would love to help you. I have been married. I got married when I was 20, when I was still in college, still married to the same man, 46 years. So a little bit of a different experience. Some people go, how'd you do it? I said, I don't know, clean living. I don't know, one man, I don't know, but he's a great guy. So he has empowered me over the years to be that woman. An example is, I remember being in the real estate office, and his crew, because he's a builder, drove into the driveway and they had nails all over the driveway. Everybody got a damn flat tire. So I'm watching the women in the office going, honey, I got a flat tire. Okay, see you soon. And they're all calling. So I call mine. I go, honey, I had a flat tire. He goes, call AAA, see ya. So that's been the difference in my life, my whole life. So I've always been very empowered, which is cool.
Right.
One thing I realized early on is that I've always been, like, because of the tech, I've always done the 10,000 hours to understand where this stuff is. So I can really play with the 35-year-olds. I work right now with tech companies where these guys are 30, 35, 40, and I can play with them. So in that world, they respect me. And then I go home and my kids and their friends treat me like I'm an old person ready to go out to pasture. So I have a lot of weird things I have to deal with. I did tell my kids, if you ever do that to me again, you're really in big trouble. I'm not their mother. Their mothers are the ones that just sit around and do whatever everyone thinks a 66-year-old woman does. I don't do that. I'm very engaged. So the thing that I loved about the book, so I had to get that out, is that we are not a burden to society. We have, I would say, and what the book said is most of the people who are retiring have the funds to retire. We are not going to be a burden on society. Not only that, if we are taking Social Security and all of those, many of us have children, our grandchildren living with us, because a lot of people, there's situations where grandchildren have come in or your kids have moved back home. So we're supporting not only ourselves, but other generations. So that really was impactful to me.
Wow.
And that, I guess the data was, I'm looking at the data here, 1 out of every 10 children in the US live with a grandparent, often in their homes. Programs like Social Security benefit older people as well as younger children. And the last thing that blew me away, it said in there by 2032, the 50+ age group is projected to drive more than half of the US economic activity. We are not going slowly into the abyss. We are traveling. We are buying things. We are spending money because many of us were smart enough. I think one of the nicest things I ever heard, and this was last year when my financial planner said, "Girl, retire already. You can." Like, how empowering is that? And yet we still can choose to work if we want.
You know, Amy, I'm glad you brought up some of the data, and I just want to throw a few things out before the next question, just to kind of highlight misperceptions. So, horror stories about nursing homes, you know, just never want to go there. And one thing I'll tell you, you know, my mother, the last 5 or 6 years of her life was a quadriplegic, so she had to go to a skilled nursing facility because it was just too much to duplicate that at home. And I will tell you, there is not one person in a nursing home that wants to be there. You know, this is something that could happen to anyone. Only 4% of older people are in a nursing home. 4%. This is not everybody's experience. In fact, far from it. Only 10% of the aging population has memory issues. There is a lot of talk about Alzheimer's and concerns about Alzheimer's, and there should be. It's terrible, right? But it's not everybody. You know, let's talk about the 90% of people that still have really good memory. Now, it may not be the same as it was 50 years ago, but it's not I don't know who my loved ones are. And then the one data point that I just loved in this book was learning about the U curve of happiness. The U curve of happiness. You know what that is? This is like verifiable. People are happiest when they're kids, when they're young, and when they're old. And it's really for the same reason. Cognitively, young children can only be in the present moment. That's all they know, right? And for older people, and I'll say, like, I am aware there is a horizon somewhere. You know, I'm married 3rd time to the love of my life, and every day is a gift because I know it won't be like this forever, right? I don't take anything for granted. I'm so much more in the moment than I was in those middle years. So really think about the U curve of happiness. And if you're not at either end right now, you have something to look forward to, not to fear, right? You have something to look forward to. Okay, I have another mental exercise, and that I alluded to earlier. Whatever age you are right now, go back 20 years. And how did you think it would be to be 20 years older at that time? And embellish it with, how did your life go that you didn't expect? Because that's another thing I've told my kids, you know, guys, however you plan and think your life is going to go, just be prepared for it not looking anything like that. Right? So let me start with Cathy and get your thoughts for you on this issue, this kind of phenomenon, if you will.
Yeah, in 2003, I thought that life was all about earning in and beating the system. It was a matter of, and I wrote this, it was like, I was knee deep in alligators. My kids were 9, 7, and 8. I had a really strained marriage and a thriving business because I thought my whole life was either or. Everything was a battleground. So in 40 and one, and so at that stage, and I'm 45. So I think I've reached the top of the food chain because I'm literally, it's like, I feel like if this is as good as it gets, I better get up earlier, right? Because I've got a lot of work to do. And so there was just this surge to do more better. And I really thought that that's what 2000, that's where I was in my early 40s, because I was still fighting the image of being old or the immaturity, the immaturity of youth, right? I was like, I thought that I was the president of the PTA. I was top, what do they call it? Top producing agent. Little did I know how widely used that term was. I was one of the top producing agents in 2000, and not that there's anything wrong with it, but I did not. I thought it was all hard work, and I thought grace was cheating. I thought compassion was for weaklings. I thought that love meant you do hard things all the time. I thought taking a rest was like quitting, and so it was an evolution. And I think that's what took me to that curve at 45 or whatever that was. And then so it's been a matter of adding the value to my life through subtracting the activities that I thought I had to do, not living under the burden of performance in order to earn grace. Even the definition of grace is unmerited favor. It's like favor without merit, favor simply because you live, love because you are. And so I love the fact that I've lived through a lot of my own mythology and come out on the other end and see the wisdom of it, because one of the things and I'll end with this. There was a woman, one of the Wash Your Face Girl type books, right? Which was the 30, 40-year-old that are out there now with the megaphone saying, work hard, do hard things, keep it up, don't let anybody tell all the things that are very necessary in your 40s and 50s. And I think at this stage, need to be the one saying, take off your shoes, try those little Skechers on, go for, enjoy your cappuccino instead of downing your espresso, because life isn't as short as you think it is. It can be as beautiful as you want it to be. So that's the grace of it. And I think that answered the question. But yeah, in 45, I thought literally, and you and I have talked, I've been a recovering addict for 40 years. And I thought that my job was to be a salmon going upstream and then spawn my eggs and die. And that's a good life, right? Well, now I'm the salmon coming back downstream saying, don't believe that stuff they tell you down there. You're going to be fine. So yeah, so that's what I love about the evolution of the last 20 years.
Well, and you're doing all that on the professional side, being the primary parent for 3 kids, right? Which is just a whole nother thing. My daughter has this wonderful family of 3 stepsons, and then this young Izzy is 5. And the other day she said, I am just exhausted. And she works in tech and big job. And I said, I don't know what else to say other than I was exhausted for 30 years, and the question is, does it really have to be that way? So,
and just to go back real quick to your man, and I'll say that that's one of the blessings of being a mentor at this stage of my life, is having to tell people, you can use the brake pedal too. It's not all accelerator. So yeah, so I love that.
I love that. Thank you, Cathy. Amy, what would you like to add to that?
When 20 years ago, I had not really done what I wanted to do. My husband was a builder. He dragged me out of New York into Connecticut, and I became a real estate agent. My degree was art therapy, like, come on. But I it was a long story, but I got into real estate. We did 1,000 homes, all kinds of construction, right? Sorry, I have a dog in my hand, or it'll bark. So from 1987 to 2000, I was not doing my thing. I loved education. I went back to school in 2000 for adult learning and adult learning theory and instructional design. And I started writing coursework because I did Sunday school and I was great at it. The courseware for real estate that I started writing blew up. And as a result, in 2009, NAR asked me to rewrite ePro, which I had no idea what a big deal that was. So huge. And so then I was getting courted by Sherry Chris, who I adore, one of my biggest mentors. And so at 54, I go into corporate for the first time in my life. I've never had a corporate job. it was really cool. I got paychecks every 2 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. It was awesome. But that was a whole new experience. But why I'm sharing that is I didn't experience any of that until I was 46 to almost 60. But I had an opportunity to fulfill what I wanted to do. But I had to wait until that happened. So that's kind of my story. So I'm not ready to give up because I still have so many things I want to do. So I wish I was more like you, Deborah. I'm not. I need a 12-step program. Maybe you can help me. I am still afraid that people won't value me because I might be too old. So I'm so afraid to tell people my age because I look younger than my 66. So, and the young tech people love me. So I'm afraid if it gets out, what's going to happen? So I do have that fear. So that's how I would take the 20 years. I'm working on it. I'm not there.
What happens in Coffee and Conversation stays in Coffee and Conversation. So no, and I'm glad you brought Sherry Chris up because Sherry is such an incredible icon person who has led all of us forward in real estate and in life. I agree. I can't say enough amazing things about her.
If I could just share, when I took that job, she was such a great mentor. She said she taught me how to work the building, like who to talk to, who to stay away from. She taught me how to communicate up to C-level people, which I didn't know what that was like. I was a real estate agent, and how to actually communicate to my team and have a very big team and manage it. So I really appreciated her for that.
Yeah, that was a luck of the draw that was fabulous. So, okay, great. Okay, Debra, let's hear what your experience has been with 20 years ago and what happened.
Oh, I hate talking about it because my husband's startup company was supposed to be so wonderful that we bought a second house in Indian Wells. We had a house in the Bay Area, and that company failed in 2 years. And now we had 2 houses, and the Indian Wells house wasn't selling because they don't sell that fast down there. And we were in trouble, lots of trouble.
So this was 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. 20 years ago. So, so we sold both houses and moved to Danville, mostly because he was kind of licking his wounds and wanted to go someplace where he could feel like he at least worked near a golf course kind of thing. So it was all about that. It was, I would say the last 20 years has just been this constant recalibrating and suddenly realizing that I was in a marriage that I was doing for everybody else that didn't want me to leave him. And I was miserable, and I was learning how to play golf with girls. I'd never played with girls before. I've always been the guy in the dress, and, had a wonderful time playing with girls and talking about girl things and just being a girl. And I sort of forgot about him for a while and just started hanging out and getting to know myself a completely different way. And golf kind of saved my life because it became pretty clear to me as I got into the game that why didn't we as women have stuff like golf and football and soccer? Remember, we didn't have that stuff. They have it now, but this team sports stuff, the golfing, the collaboration is so good for your business. It's so good for your inner self. It's so good for your ability to learn how to network and talk to other people, even if you're not, they're not on your team or whatever it is. How to find your tribe comes from that kind of stuff. And I would say that that was a skill that I picked up from golf, which, like I said, I purposely take a day off during the week and I work every other moment to go with the 18-holers because they are so much fun. It's not about golf at all. And what I would say is, yeah, that was a really hard period of time, but the one thing that will carry you through the rest of your life is continuing to be a lifelong learner. If you continue to learn new things, like I just ran everything I have, pre-sales, post-sales, bio through ChatGPT to see how that would affect everything. And it's all great because it's now just another tool and you just use it and you edit it from something that's already kind of got you started. So I love the technology side of our business. I would say to you, Cathy, it's the biggest problem I have in real estate is that my ego comes through the door before my body hits it. And I've had to really learn to temper that from what worked in technology and being a leader there, and making sure that I'm focused on the client first. So I know it looks like a strength, but it can be a weakness, and you have to learn how to use it. So
Beautiful.
that's my
Beautiful. Thank you. I've become a golf interested person since being married to John, and we watched the movie Tin Cup last night, and it was so good. So I'm kind of getting into that a little bit. So thank you for bringing that up. That was very cool. Okay, so the final question, and I can't believe how quickly this hour is going by, is what actions would you recommend to support women who are looking at the future and confronting their own kind of demons and certainly the societal ones with respect to age? And Amy, I want to start with you.
2 things. Get healthy. Get healthy. And if it's integrative medicine and not regular medicine, get exercising, get healthy. One of my mentors said, you might not agree, that she goes, stay skinny, you'll live longer. So she was not the best mentor, but I still think her advice was good. Stay
Right.
healthy. The other thing,
Beautiful.
Debra, I'm going to piggyback on what you said. Keep on learning new stuff. And for me, my son is a community manager for a very large team in Texas. He lives in Philly. He does events. He does all sorts of stuff. And he's been telling me that some of the speakers that are my generation are losing out because they're not staying up with the times. Like, they just had a big conference. Tom Ferry was there. And all of these like young people have really great new ideas. Embrace everything that's going on right now so you can stay connected. The worst thing is friends who have retired and have become so boring. I'm looking for new friends. So stay healthy, stay connected.
I'm your new friend. Thank you, Amy. Debra, what recommendations do you have for us?
So our buddy who wrote this book has this quote in it that was, it resonated across the board for me, which is, the appearance of the bull changes when you're inside the ring. And she was relating to this in terms of your health and having to make decisions about your health. But it's true about everything. Before you diss something, you think it's not something for you, try some new things. Go and do that, And I totally agree with the health thing. I'm having my knee replaced in a few months. And I found out that yesterday, and I was like, really? So I am going to lose 10 more pounds before I get that knee operation done. And I did run into some girls at the club today who said, why haven't you been in class for 4 weeks? And I said, I'm going to have my knee replaced. They said, okay, so it's your knee. What about the rest of you? And I thought, that's such an old person's thing to say at a 55 plus, because they're like, don't sit on your ass. Get yourself back into class and work out. We'll put your knee on a shelf and work the rest of you. You got an upper body, right? So I just think that you just have to stay engaged at the time you're in, right? And just constantly be learning and growing, and you'll always be the best version of yourself going forward.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. And Cathy, why don't you wrap it up?
Yeah, I just think moving forward, that the old idea of to thine own self be true, and the beauty of the continuing saga of knowing myself at 20, 40, 60, that it's the constant reintroduction. So it's that inner sanctuary work of being able to be comfortable within your own body, and with that being a healthy body, and also the curiosity that keeps me connected to things. I mean, I pull out old books now and I'm seeing them with fresh eyes. I'm seeing them with the eyes of a wiser woman. And I read Confucius, or you and I both know we went through a Rumi stage, but even if you open up one of your old journals and you look at it with the eyes of the woman who loves herself today, you see a different world. And I think that that's the culmination, because for me, everything always begins and ends in the world of spirit. And so if you go through the journey, because we have to live with humans on a dysfunctional planet, so we have to do the thing, right? But you always come home to yourself. And in that coming home to yourself, it's befriending my body a little bit more on that too. So I do, yeah, it's constant learning, but it's interesting how learning something new that was old with the new eyes, how beautiful and precious that is. So
wonderful, wonderful. I'm going to switch it over to Melanie and see if there are if there's anyone who's on the call, on the show, that would like to add a comment or ask a question. We have a few minutes where we can do that. And as you guys were all just so terrific. So I'm so happy that we have this on video and can rewatch it, because the wisdom that comes from the heart and experience and comes, as Cathy said, it looks a lot like love, is just priceless.
Yes, thank you so much, ladies, for everything. I have not seen any questions in the chat. Lots and lots of love. So we'll make sure that you get a copy of that. But if anybody does have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. Or if you want to type it into there's lots of people who want to catch up.
Oh, that's great. Well, listen, that's another promo to please give, please come to the retreat. It's going to be just the most amazing experience. And, you know, for me, like, I don't get to see everybody but once a year, and this is going to be fabulous. And to the whole health issue, I don't know how many people know I shattered my kneecap at the beginning of January. So I thought of you, Debra, with your knee replacement. I just had a plate put in, but it's been a 3.5 month journey, kind of back to health. And it is my number one priority. When everything is taken away, you realize just how delicious it is to walk, to take a shower, all of the things that you take for granted. So putting a priority, like the top priority, on how you feel in your body is just so important.
We did have one question come in, and yes, please go to iamwomanup.com and get your retreat tickets. But the one question is, what's your one piece of advice?
Okay, panel, one piece of advice.
love. And when that doesn't work, love more.
Be yourself. Be yourself at the age you are. Don't try to be somebody else. Find out what it is and follow it. And just remember, you only get one chance at this, right? This is it. I don't care what you look like or how you feel on a dumpy day. Every day is a great day to wake up. And that's really what matters.
Yes. Amy?
Take time to figure out who you are, what you want to do. If you need to go spend a weekend alone somewhere, do it. You need to get away from the grind, and then keep your head down and don't let anyone discourage you. Cathy, you said it nicely, love. I have a different mantra, which has a swear word in it. So be true to yourself. And Debra, you also mentioned it as well. So
I'll just close it up by saying, just, you are enough. And to get together with these amazing women and have them immediately talk about needing to lose weight, or their hair isn't thick enough, or how I'm old, like, nobody cares. Like, own it. Like, you can own this part of your life. You can own your body. And it's not about a body image. I spent my whole life wanting to look like Audrey Hepburn. Well, you know what? It's just never going to happen. And I feel good. I feel healthy. And I think that's really, we're all enough. We are all beautiful creatures. We are all love, and just embrace being alive, because as I tell my kids, no one gets out alive. So every day is a precious gift, every day. So anyone else want a final comment? And then I guess we'll close it out.
I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I think it was a blast, and I enjoyed meeting my other panelists. And I'm looking at the chat, and it looks like we did a good job.
Great.
Yeah, yeah,
Great.
yeah. It was amazing. What amazing. My life just got bigger and bigger. Thank you. Thank you. Love
Yeah,
it.
I love you. My heart is so full. And thank you all for being here for Coffee and Conversations. And I'll see you in Oceanside.
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.